Ever feel like yelling is the only way to get your kids to listen? Girl, I know it feels like if you don't raise your voice, let me bring it up a notch, nothing changes. But what if I told you yelling is actually doing the opposite of what you think? Let me be real with you. I grew up in a house where yelling was normal. My mom always yelled, and honestly, she still does. I hated it then, and I still do. I remember thinking, does anyone in this house know how to talk without screaming at the top of their lungs? Because every time they did it, it just drove me insane. Literally, eye roll. But to her, yelling was just how you communicated. Even now, when I talk to her on the phone, I cringe because she'll raise her voice over the smallest things. And it's not even at me, just yelling in general. And it still aggravates me. Now, I love my mama, but that's just one of the things that I cannot deal with. Like, call me back when you stop yelling. The hard part, I carried that same cycle into my own motherhood without realizing it. I started yelling at my kids, thinking it would get their attention, but all it did was create the same heavy atmosphere I grew up in. And it's the one I promised myself I'll never repeat. And here's what really opened my eyes. I was doing research and I found that the University of Pittsburgh found that yelling doesn't improve behavior. It actually increases stress and creates even more problems in the long run. And girl, that hit me because I know I ignored my mama when she yelled. I tuned her out. I hated it so much that I mentally checked out just to protect my peace. And like I said earlier, I still do. Tuned out, ignored. And the truth is, our kids do the same thing. They disconnect just like we do, or just like we did. So here's the thing, sis. Yelling doesn't teach kids to listen. What it's really teaching them is how to tune you out. It models the chaos you're trying to break free from. And that's the scary part because we're telling ourselves that we're not going to do the same things that our mama did. And yet somehow we find ourselves spiraling into the same trap. And this trap is a cycle of yelling, then guilt, then frustration, and then yelling all over again. It loops over and over. And that's what I go over in my guide, Mama, the Cycle Ends With You. Because I realize that there's this cycle, right, that we don't even realize that we just fall victim to day by day. And so I walk you through the guide to show you how to recognize the cycle that you're in and how to map out the patterns that are playing over and over day to day that you don't even realize. And you can get it in the show notes whenever you're ready to go through that guide because I walk you step by step through it so that way you know how to use it. But back to what I was saying. There's a better way, right? Calm communication, clear boundaries, and then everything changes. If you have those two, you don't have to stay victim to this cycle. And I didn't realize that was literally the key. When you lower your voice, but stay firm with your boundaries, your kids don't just hear your words, they feel your peace. That's when respect and trust begins to grow. And that's when your home starts shifting from chaos to calm. And girl, I see it happen. I don't have to yell. I could speak calmly to my children because they did hear me the first time and they understood. That yelling just makes me feel like I need to repeat myself or, bring it up a notch so that way I validate my own feelings. And that's what I noticed. But they understood the first time I said it. I just didn't give them time to respond. So if yelling has been the pattern in your home, I need you to know this. Girl, you're not a bad mom. You're a mama who's been surviving and doing what you thought you had to do. Because if we're being honest, if our mama yelled, our grandmama yelled, and everybody else yelled, well, what makes us think that there's another way of parenting, right? So you shouldn't feel bad about it. But what you can do now is end that cycle. Because survival isn't the end of your story. You can break the cycle. You can model peace instead of chaos. You can be the one who says, it ends with me. So, if you're tired of living in that cycle of yelling, the guilt, the chaos, here's your next step. Grab my guide in the show notes, and I'm going to help you name the chaos and start building peaceful rhythms. Or if you want that extra support, girl, you want to kick it with me on Voxer for a week for coaching, where we will walk through this together in real time, book your Voxer week. Until next episode, I'll talk to you soon.